Hello, I'm your host, Kelly Eckhart, and welcome to The Future Edit. Hello and welcome to the Future Edit podcast. I am super excited to have this amazing guest, Emily Ibarra, and I'm going to talk to her about spirituality, other realms, kind of how she's kind of gotten into this kind of thing. And Emily and I met through Instagram, actually, and then have become quite good friends. And we met through styling and photography, but now we have this deeper level conversations about, oh, have you heard this podcast? Or I bought these tarot cards or these oracle cards. So we've really had nice discussions about this other realm, spirituality, mystical things, which is really, really fun. So Emily is a photographer, very good photographer, also has a daughter, Frida, and I'm going to ask her about her background, and then we'll get into kind of what she's learning about all this editing the future you. So thank you, Emily, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that introduction.
So tell me about yourself, a little bit about your background, and we'll start there.
Cool. I'm American, from California, and just in general background or spituality background?
Well, let's get to know you a little bit, and then we'll jump into spiritual. Love it.
So I guess the quick version is I grew up in California and had always, loved photography. I grew up in the Bay Area, and that took me to Los Angeles. And about 7-8 years ago, I met my partner, Jason, who's from Germany. And we hung out in LA and then hung out in Germany, and then we decided to travel around the world for 5 years and then start a family. And we chose Frankfurt, where he's from, as our home base. And he does parkour and I do photography, obviously. So that kind of was a great cohesive relationship, both, romantically and, work wise. So now we're here with Frida, who will be 2 in August.
Wow.
And it's just kind of different chapters of her life, but let's kind of all work together. And that's how I got to be here and how I met you.
Exactly. We're both Americans, and it's nice to have that common ground, actually, because, when you're meeting other people like Germans and, English and all that stuff, it's great. But there is this level of American humor and kind of sarcasm that when you meet someone else that's kind of on the same plane, it's really nice because you're like, oh, yeah, she'll understand when I say that, or, so it's really good. So you have had some, spiritual experiences and are now diving more into this realm. So kind of tell me when this spirituality curiosity had started and kind of how it's grown from then till now, and what you're kind of discovering now. And because Emily's so good about texting me, oh, have you heard about this podcast, or check this out, this is super cool, or I had this amazing dream last night, trying to find out what it means. And I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. So so when did your spirituality start?
I think it's always, to expand a little bit on that before, is I feel like it's something I've always been fascinated in, and now finally I'm at a place where I have this extra time and maybe even extra money to invest in extra books or things. And I love being able to share that, because you can't share it just with everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's a limited audience, isn't it?
It is. And it kind of makes it a little bit more special, I think, when, I'll never forget when I was traveling and I was in England, and I was at a coffee shop and I saw this woman reading this book about past lives, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to you.
Amazing.
My mother's side is all from Louisiana, so it was kind of almost that running joke in the family, like if someone knew something or something happened, oh, I knew that was going to happen, I'm psychic, or we're psychic. We come from this lineage of, background, so it was kind of always floating. But actually, I think it was my aunt who really first kind of exposed my sister and I to spirituality. I remember her telling me, before you were born, I saw you and this little girl with like two braids, and like she had a vision or had a dream about her. I remember her, teaching us about like chakras and crystals and um I remember my sister had been hanging out with her, and then I came into the room, and my little sister was like looking into the mirror, and she's like, "What are you?" I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, I can see my aura," So I was
Oh,
like,
awesome. That's brilliant.
I think it kind of had always just been a little bit there in the background,
Hmm.
and my sister, when she was young, she always saw, you know, not always, but she had seen a couple of ghosts.
Okay.
And so it was kind of the thing of like, mom, you know we walked into our house, she's like, I saw a man up on the balcony. We're like, what? Hello, like, is anyone there? She's like, no, 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 he disappeared. And she's like very calm about it. And then I think this was, I can't remember when, I remember this happening, but I can't remember how old she was, maybe like 6 or 7. And then a week later, my grandmother was cleaning out the armoire, and she had a bunch of pictures, and my sister took the picture. She said, "This is the man I saw." And it was a picture of my grandfather in the Korean War,
Oh, wow.
and he had died when I was 5, so he was 2, she was 2. So just like little things like that
Yeah.
just always were kind of happening. And, I mean, I remember as a kid, I'd be like, okay, whenever we kind of mess with stuff, you see stuff. So, okay, do you see anything now? Like, let's go, this mess. Like, we're not supposed to go into that. We lived with my grandmothers as well as my parents. So we were always like, okay, can you see anything happening? Anything happening? So I was kind of always the instigator.
Nice. I like that. It's like tag team. Right, let's do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, so I think that was like my basis of it. It was just a fascination,
Hmm.
and it was, I think, very open in our household. It wasn't anything that was off limits. And then slowly I just started getting into psychic readings and different things like that. And I'll never forget when I was 18 or 19, I worked at a hotel, a very fancy one, and the psychic came in who wanted to give readings to the guests there. And so he offered free readings to the employees as a way to kind of get more clientele coming in. And so my sister and I both worked there at the time, and we went together, and without us saying anything, he told her, she's like, you have shut off, you can speak to spirits or ghosts, I don't know, I can't remember the word he used, but he said, you shut it off, but eventually you'll finally say, okay, what do you want? And it was so crazy because we didn't say anything about that she could see them.
Yeah.
And it was just such a powerful reading to me. So I feel like, oh, interesting,
Yeah.
um and then it became a hobby, as definitely as I traveled. I always was curious and always wanted recommendations from people in readings, but also too, in like the hardest times, that was when I was like, okay, I need help, I surrender, like I'll try anything type of
Yeah.
thing, when I was in like my bouts of depression, or just in hard relationships, or just trying to figure out. So it became this building block that I navigated.
Nice. And during your travels, did that kind of, because you've traveled everywhere, Thailand and Hong Kong and all these, Japan, all these places, do you do you find that that also kind of helped you create this curiosity? Because there's so, I mean, Thailand's quite a spiritual place, right? And, there's a lot of people going there to kind of find themselves or seek help and when you're feeling low or just in general. Did you find that kind of also opened your eyes or?
Yeah, I think that there's these little spiritual pockets, some larger, some small, in all parts of the world. And I think personally, I just found myself attracted to the people like, oh,
Yeah.
there's a festival and in this one corner they're doing Reiki healing and
Yeah.
readings. Cool. I'm going to go there. So, you know, just, hey, have you heard of anyone who's had a reading from someone, and be like, oh, actually, yeah, my friend knows this person, and, try to get them in. So, yeah, I think I was always gravitating to those pockets, and I think they exist if you can just, search. Sometimes,
Yeah.
like in Japan, I would walk by a couple of them, and I can't translate that, so that sometimes it gets
Yeah.
discouraging, but it's always been interesting. It's always on my radar.
Okay, nice. And have you had a reading or experience that really kind of opened your eyes?
Thank
Or,
you.
hi, Jason. I mean, something that kind of threw you off guard or really made you step back and say, oh, wow, that's interesting.
Say hi, Kelly.
Hi, Frida. You guys can't see her right now, but she's literally the cutest child ever.
Thank you. I'm very proud. I think I remember going through a difficult time in my early 20s, and I went and saw she was some sort, I guess she would be like a Reiki healer. It was again referred to my friend. Hey, you have to go to this woman. She's amazing. And I was just energetically, I was really struggling at the time. And it wasn't so much a psychic reading. It was more body work.
Yeah. The energy.
Energy work. And I remember she told me, she's like, the minute you close your eyes, I was on like a table, so she was working on me. She said, the minute that I told you to close your eyes, your spirit guide came in, and it was this very tall, dark Native American man. And I just thought, oh, that makes me feel very secure. Like I just
safe.
imagined, that's my that sounds cool. I like that. I can get down with that. Like, and so it just resonated with me, and I think their spirit guide, my opinion, thought, theory, I don't know, is that when it comes in, whatever form you feel most safe. So someone else, it might be an angel, who knows what it be. And so for me, I'm like, okay, yeah. And then I was seeing another medium, and she's sitting at the table with me. She's talking. She's like, I'm looking at your spirit guide right now. And it's this tall, dark Native American man. And she said the same exact thing, described them. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like he's really there. Like that's really, really him. So I think that kind of was the confirmation for me, or just like a good feeling of like, okay, cool, there can be similarities. Now, when I personally go to any type of healer or psychic or spiritual, guidance system, I'm never trying to prove it or disprove it. I'm never trying to question the person, because for me personally, it just doesn't feel worth it. Like if I'm going to pay money to someone to give me a reading or someone to help me, I'm just going to spend my time seeing what they can give me, and I can sort through it to see if it works or not. So, I'm not really looking for that confirmation. And, but it's always, it's just kind of nice to hear it. And, I think it's really like, getting to me, a psychic reading is kind of like sex, like there's good sex and there's bad
sex. Yeah. I like this analogy.
you know, and sometimes, it's just, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's great. Everything resonates. It feels good. And sometimes it's like, ugh, that wasn't really worth it. So, and sometimes there was just like a little bit of, just one piece of information that came through that was worth it. It was just like, well, the sex wasn't great, but I still had an orgasm. That was fun,
Yeah, exactly. I got something out of it. I got what I needed.
Yeah, I got what I needed. Exactly. Yeah. So, that's my analogy.
It is really important, isn't it, to get a recommendation from a friend or someone that's kind of experienced how they work, because you also, I think, with these have to also be very careful to protect your energy as well. And I think a lot of readers are overall very, very positive, and they just want the best for you, and they really want to show you or kind of guide you. But I think you can also get ones, maybe they're just learning, maybe they're just not tuned in enough, or maybe they have tuned in and there's something that's really not kind of at that moment really resonating with you at the time. And then maybe later down the road, you're like, she said that didn't resonate with me, but now it makes sense, kind of thing. So I think it is quite interesting to, with my readings as well, I always get a recommendation because I'm a little bit nervous going to someone I've never dealt with before. Like, but you kind of have to take a leap of faith and just try it, right? So
what makes you nervous about it?
I mean, to be honest, I did go to one girl that did my birth chart and she did my cards. And I was a bit nervous because there was called the Halen Center in London in Crouch End where I lived. And I kind of just picked her off their website and I was a little bit nervous. And at first when I went in, I didn't feel so much of a connection. And then when we got talking, it was a really beautiful session. And it was almost like we hadn't connected energies yet. But as soon as we did, and I think she had already kind of scanned me over of kind of who I was, or this preconceived idea. And then when she got talking to me, she's like, wow, I had it wrong at first. You're completely this other person that I didn't think. And then it was a really beautiful reading. So sometimes it's also, I think, just opening yourself up and just going with it. Like you said, like, you're paying money to do this, so enjoy it, get something out of it. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they're humans too, right?
exactly.
So they could having a good day, a bad day. They, just maybe they're feeling off, or your personality is off, or and I always do feel like it always takes a little bit of time to get into the swing. And yeah, again, I'm always very freely of like giving people information too, so they have more to work with. And some people could be like, oh, they're just vibing off of my vibe. And sometimes I even think that I'm like, but I'm using it as a tool, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
I feel like I need to show this person that I'm confident and I'm not doom and gloom and I'm not worried about this stuff. I just want to hear the other stuff. So I'll give them all they need. And maybe they take that and they give me what they think I want to hear, but maybe I also need to hear that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I've gone into sessions before thinking I know what I want to hear or what I need to hear, and walking away with something completely different, and take that as, okay, that's cool, and then I'm very grateful and appreciative of what they've told me. They usually tap into kind of what I need to hear, or kind of confirming that I already know what I need to do. And they're kind of like, listen, you already know this, but let's go a little step further and kind of dig a little deeper into why you think you need this, or have you thought about this? Or I find that with readings especially, I think it's just a really good way to boost your self-confidence. A lot of these sessions is just about believing in yourself and having that confidence to trust your inner voice and your intuition, which I find, this is why I love tarot reading so much, because it is literally about just guidance to what you already know inside, of trusting yourself, right?
Yeah, no, it's just kind of that extra reminder. Even just this morning, Jason and I, we just pulled oracle cards just like for fun.
Yeah.
And mine was like the mountain, and it was talking about how you always feels like an obstacle is in the way, and how are you going to get over it, or it feels like this big daunting thing to climb it, but be like the river and just go around it, and just and
super
I've been
powerful.
super powerful. And I'm thinking, like, I was literally having this thought the other day because I want to kind of enjoy these new things of music and like pottery. And I'm like, oh, my mind goes, okay, but how am I going to make money doing those things?
Exactly. I'm like you. It's like, just enjoy it.
and that's the mountain I'm creating for myself. And so it's just like, don't worry about that. Just do it and figure that out all later. And it's just like, yes, that's my reminder. That's what I was, and I just needed that extra little reminder, really. One of my favorite I have a theta healer who I've gone to for many, many years.
Can you explain theta healer to me? I'm not sure what that
Nope.
is. Okay. Okay, love it.
I've like read, I mean, to me, she's just literally saved my life, so many times. So, but, I guess it is, I, I can't really explain it. I've like
No
looked up
problem.
the definition so many times and I've gone through her so many times, but it is, she's definitely psychic. I call her my psychic therapist because,
Yeah.
by the way, I've been in therapy, like traditional therapy, since my early 20s too. So I'm always like simultaneously doing this stuff. And I think, like my therapist is always like, I believe that the answers are inside you and I'm here just to help you get them out. And I think the same is true for these psychic readings. Like it's inside me. They're taking, they're looking at it and I have the ability to funnel that, answer that, or even just accept it or not,
Yeah.
So that's why for me, I don't really get so scared about the readings because I trust my own intuition enough to be like, ugh, if that sounds like a load of BS, then I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, one more analogy someone told me, and I can't remember who, but they said psychic readings or these readings are kind of like someone going to the Eiffel Tower on a beautiful sunny day and looking up and describing to you how they feel. And then someone else in the middle of winter at a dark and like rainy day going to the other side and describing what they see, so it can be the same thing. It's also the interpreter of who's giving you that information, who's delivering it to you. And I think that's kind of important to know too. But what was I saying?
About your theta healer.
Yeah. She's just amazing. But we kind of got onto this tangent one time. She's like, I could just be some mentally ill person just, just telling people this stuff. And I don't really care as long as it's helping them. And I was like, I honestly don't care either.
Yeah.
Like,
I love it. Oh, that's great. And so tell me what you are reading right now, a podcast you're listening to. What have you discovered recently that you found super interesting?
Oh gosh, I'm reading and learning all about aliens.
I love this, by the way.
I'm reading these books or listening to, and I'm like, does anyone know what she just said? Like, did you hear this? Like, and there's a part of me that like wants to believe it, obviously, or otherwise I wouldn't be researching it. But I'm just like blown away. I love this era that we're in of just podcasts and technologies, and you can just say whatever you want and put out whatever you want, and you're not going to get burned at the stake or just can filter these things out. But so I was just like making these notes. I'm like, okay, I found 4 women who have come out who said they are aliens and reincarnated on Earth, essentially. And in all varying degrees. And then there's just like so much content to consume if I choose to like go into that more deeper. So that's kind of so Jason, my partner, he is more the agnostic, atheist like realm. He's much more the logical and not so much into this stuff, but I still enjoy like talking to him about it. So it was interesting because yesterday I was like, okay, I'm gonna tell you this theory about these aliens, and I don't want you to try to like prove it or disprove it, but I just want to, for the sake of conversation, let's talk about it. And so I explained to them their theories and stuff, and he was like, he's like, it sounds like Greek mythology, like the same story about these sorry, my headphones did a weird thing. There's a similarity of the story that they're telling with Greek mythology. So I thought that was really interesting too, because I do believe that there's these different stories just kind of being absorbed or taken in by different people, or different ways. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm still processing
it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is I mean, there's some stories you hear, right, that you do have to try to wrap your mind around it because we're so kind of, straight and even, and this is the way we live our lives, and you're born and then you die and stuff. But there could be this other, I mean, the more I'm learning, we're all made of energy. People could be from star seeds from other planets, have been reincarnated. Like you said, some have come back as people, some were never even on this earth. They came from another planet and then were reincarnated. And I find it fascinating, but sometimes when you're kind of trying to make sense of all this stuff, it can just be like, you know, just accept it, or, it can be quite, how is this even possible? But how is anything possible, right? So.
Right. Yeah. And I love Jason's perspective on it because he said two things. He said, one, it was the a similarity to the Greek mythology, which
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I've always been interested in Greek mythology. Maybe I should dive in more and really compare and contrast the similarities fully. And he said, if this is true, does this change anything about my life? And I said, no. And, I thought that was interesting as well. But for me, I just realized I'm just entertained. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And it's what I do. I'm not watching Netflix shows right now. I'm not mainly because I have a toddler, so
Yeah.
I'm just kind of in my free moments. I'm reading and I'm listening to podcasts, and so and I'm also quite stationary. I'm not traveling, so it's just like this is my entertainment. This is just what I happen to be interested in,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm finding fun. Um, yeah.
Nice. And you had introduced me. What was the podcast called? The Awakening.
The
The
Awakening OD. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He is amazing. That's Jessa Reed. And oh, gosh, yeah, she's one of those things. She's a comedian, so she delivers it in this just hilarious format and podcast,
Oh my God, our last
and
night.
it's
It's so
it's so
funny.
good. But yeah, she's another one who's like an intergalactic being, incarnated here or here on Earth, eighth dimensional being, I think.
Yeah, eighth dimensional. I was like, I'm just getting to know the fifth dimension. I'm like, wow, there's 8 dimensions. Okay.
Oh, there's more. Yeah, apparently there's more.
But
But yeah, from a scientific perspective, yeah, we do know that there's more.
yeah.
There's a really great analogy about a fish, in a pond, in a shallow pond, with its eyes, on the side of its head, and it can go forward and backwards, and it's in this like 2D world, basically, and then a hand coming up down and picking up the fish and holding it above the water, and it like looking it around and go, oh my gosh, and then putting it back down, and then telling the other fish like, oh my gosh, there's more out there, and they're like, okay, what does it look like, where is it, how do we see it? And it's like, that's kind of, the 2D to 3D, and just imagine it going
Yeah.
beyond.
I always like to think that, I'm sitting here and maybe there's another me just sitting right next to me, and then another and another, and we're all completely, doing our thing, not necessarily the same thing. It's like different versions of myself in different, and these dimensions, and people are all just kind of piled up on each other, but we can't see it or feel it. I think
Yeah.
it would be really interesting, and sometimes too, when you're kind of just staring off into space, not really thinking or like focusing in on anything, there's so much you can see things flutter by, or lights or different things, and it's just really fascinating how, if we could truly, I mean, it is amazing that some people can see energy, right? They can see people's energy, they can help heal people's energy, and it would just be so fascinating to have a moment of being able to see all of it around you and how beautiful it actually would be, and maybe it would change people's perspectives about just people in general and people's differences. If they know that we're all the same, we're all just this energy, it would be quite fascinating, I think. Or maybe I just need to take a load of drugs and then I'll be able to see it.
Yeah, Terrence McKenna, who was all about taking a load of drugs, like
Yeah.
he would talk about these experiments he would do with people where they would, I believe, took a lot of mushrooms,
Yeah.
and how they would kind of get to this other dimension that was essentially, they see these beings, and it wasn't as if they kind of moved somewhere there. They were just like, oh my gosh, you can see us, and so it was like as if they were there the whole time. We just can't see them. And
Yeah.
it was weird is because multiple people describe the same experiences that didn't
Interesting.
know about each other. So yeah, that reminds me of what you said, the other dimensions on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think of Interstellar, right? Where in this like room of all these different colored bands, and he can somehow communicate with the past. It's really interesting. He kept falling and falling and falling into these different rooms, and you think, wow, this could possibly, you know, be happening, or we're all just literally in a dream. And
But
it's like,
yeah, so that's what that I don't know. I don't want to say I that's what I hate. I don't feel like I fully grasp everything. It's just kind of still in the process of coming in. But
yeah,
yeah, that past, present, and future is kind of all stacked up on top of each other. And yeah, I think we did talk about it, about dreams, where I feel I have been able to access, I can't say that, different timelines through my dreams.
hmm,
And, it's just the deja vu moment. And yeah, I've been kind of coming up, remembering, oh my gosh, I had that dream, I had that dream, I had that dream, where I knew I had seen it and done it before, and then it happened. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
This I find fascinating. It's interesting, those deja vu moments, right? Because I'm someone like you that I get them a lot. I get a lot of deja vus, and it's literally kind of stops you, like stops me in my track. I'm like, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
I've been here before. I know this. It's like this whole full body feeling of smell, everything. And then, and then it really gets me intrigued and thinking like, when was I here? What year was it? you know,
Yeah.
did it look the same? Was I the same person, or was I a man? I mean, it's quite interesting
And
that.
so where I am with that, because I always was like, okay, because not anything that happened in these deja vu moments or these dreams, nothing actually like wasn't like, oh, this car is gonna hit this child, and if I
Yeah.
know beforehand I could save it, and it's like I need to know that, which would be really cool, but in this better in movies. But they were just kind of pointless, and or not pointless, but they were just uneventful.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, well, what is that? It's cool. I have the ability to do this. So what I have been reading is that, yes, time is just stacked. And when we're in a very, clear mind and state, that we can access these points. So your dreams or your sleep, is one of those places. And if you're not asking specifically to go to a certain point or to see something, then it will just kind of show you at random. And the ones that I remember the most is, so one example is, I remember waking up from this dream and going, that was a weird dream. Why am I with my friend, like my friend who's married, and why are we in on vacation together, and like just the two of us, because at the time I had a different boyfriend, and he was married, and it was just so weird. All I just remember is like, ew. like am I dreaming about having this affair with my friend? And like that just seems wrong. And and I didn't understand it at all. And I didn't remember the dream until, with this friend, I went to England, and the person that we were staying with and my boyfriend, they both left to do a job back in LA. And so I was alone with my friend who was married. He was shooting, so his wife didn't attend. And we were walking down this path. And as I'm walking, I'm going, I've seen this before. I've been here before. This is deja vu. Okay, blah blah blah. And I just realized this is the dream I had, and this is the moment where I am with him alone. Um, in another country. And so it wasn't the romantic thing that I thought it was, but like that's just what I remembered when I woke
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
So I think when you kind of have those associations for that, it's just really interesting, because then you can truly remember, okay, I had that dream. It probably happened so much more than we remember.
Yeah, exactly. It's that if you can remember it, to write it down first thing. There's so many people keep a dream journal, but for me, it's like you remember it the second you get up and then you blink and then it's gone again. It's like, no, I really wanted to remember that. And then other ones, they just stick. And you're like, why does this just keep sticking? Why do I keep thinking about this all day? And I just think, well, a lot of them are subconscious thoughts, right? It's, oh, well, that I was looking at pictures on Facebook of this person. And so it's probably my dream because, it was in my thought process and stuff. Yeah. But I mean, there are people that really have these deep, deep, meaningful dreams that, really do need to pay attention to that because that's their gift, right? That is something that they can really use to help themselves, to help other people. Or maybe it's just an interesting, fun thing for them,
Yeah.
Which
I'd
is
like to
quite
believe
cool.
we all have the ability to do it if we want to and we're willing to put forth the effort and the time,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's hard to say. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think in other parts of my life, I've had bigger fish to fry, had a big
Yeah.
different priorities to sort out,
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think you can always tell when you have those dreams where you're like, oh, that was trying to tell me something. That wasn't
Yeah.
just, yeah,
Yeah,
whether it's your
exactly.
subconscious or not. Again, who knows, so.
Yeah, true. True. Yeah, fascinating stuff. Cool. Is there any advice or anything you'd like to tell the audience about what you've learned, or how has any of this kind of helped you find your inner self? Or, clearly, you've gone to some readings and stuff when you're in a deep, going through a hard time. But what would be the one piece of advice you have for people that are quite curious about learning about these things?
I think one more thing to remember. I remember when I first met Jason, and then I went to a psychic after like 2 months of knowing him, and she told me like, "Oh, he's a juicy peach. He's great, but it's not gonna last." And I remember I was very sad about that. That it was not gonna the last. But I came to Germany anyways, just to have fun and to enjoy it with him. And I remember that time I was just kind of was like, you know what? Okay, it's not going to last, but just have fun, enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
And I really was like manifesting that whole time. Like, I want this feeling more. I want more of this, or this is fun. Like, and so I manifested it, and, it ended up all, I'm here now.
Yeah, still
It ended
here.
up lasting. I mean, it kind of had to end and then be reborn, but that's a different story for a different time, different podcast. But I think what was important was it's like I could look back on that. She's like, she was wrong. It did last, blah blah blah. But really, I'm like, no, actually, I think she was right. It didn't last and it was reborn. And also, I needed to hear that. That was what was
Mm-hmm.
important for me to hear. If she would have told me, oh, wow, yeah, I don't imagine a psychic ever saying he's the one. But like, you're going to be with him and start a family and do all this stuff. I would have been like, my brain would have just like exploded. Like, okay, how am I going to move to Germany? How is this going to work out? Blah, blah, blah. What if this, da, da, da. Oh no, don't mess it up. And I think I would have been a completely different person and it wouldn't have worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel that like there is free will and you are able to
Exactly.
kind
That's
of.
a good point. Yeah, there is free will with these things. And like you said, take what resonates with you or use that as sometimes people just need that challenge and need that, no, that's going to work. And so they go for it. And if it doesn't, fine, they at least put all their effort into it. And they know for a fact that they did everything they could. Because if you also just listen to someone say that's not going to work, you want to be responsible for your own actions as well, right? So yeah, that's a very good point, that free will in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just use it as a guidance, and if you feel it's going to work, then just do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, sometimes you're being told what you need to hear. You may
Yeah.
not. I mean, there's a lot of things that I would just not be ready to hear. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to process it. So there's no point in someone telling me.
Yeah.
And I personally believe there's this great podcast, The Psychic Teachers. They're so cute. These two women from the US. And they talk about this stuff and, the moral responsibility, and they're like, you can't just go tap someone on the shoulder and let them know, hey, your husband's cheating on you. I know you're wondering. Like, I picked up on that. They're like, you actually have to go and ask. And, I've done that for other people. Like, hey, can I want to help my friend, what's going, is there anything I can do to help? And the psych is like, she doesn't want your help.
Yeah.
She's not open to it, like, and some other people, it is open, so, yeah, that went off on a tangent. I could talk about this stuff all day, honestly, but
isn't it great? I find it so fascinating. And the more I'm learning about it, because, I'm still in this process of just learning so much. And I'm happy to call myself the learner and then just share the knowledge that I am learning. But yeah, it's so fascinating. And the deeper I get into it, the more I want to know about it. And also different aspects of it, because when I was really down and out, and I knew I needed to get some help, but I didn't, I see a therapist as well, and it's great. But, she also, does readings, and she kind of helps people in a spiritual way. And I didn't really know where to look at first. I'm like, where do I go? And there's so much you could do out there. There's so much information. It's like, where do I start? And it's the same with when I'm learning at the moment. It's, oh my God, but I want to learn about this, and I want to learn about this, and I want to learn about this, which is super fascinating. But at some point, it'll be really nice to kind of find something that really, really intrigues you, and then you can dive really deep into it, So yeah, I can always talk about this all day, because it's a curiosity just to learn more. And there will be some things, right, that's like, yeah, that's interesting, but my head's too full with this right now.
And it could be a timing thing. That's kind of what I've done too. Like, okay, I have this extra time. I want to learn some more stuff. And, I started reading about palm reading and astrology. And just before, I was just kind of like, okay, kind of cool. But not my thing. And now that I'm reading about it, I'm like, actually, this does sound interesting. I learned a little bit more. Like, it didn't resonate with me, in the past, but now I'm like, I could maybe see myself getting, a book on that or learning more about that. So, like, everything is a timing thing.
It is. And I'm doing my deep soul searching. It is really interesting that it is a timing thing, because like you said, sometimes you're not ready to hear what you need to hear or learn that yet. And this thing has to happen first in order for it to kind of make sense, right? Because, the one thing you don't want to do is kind of go backwards, where you've heard this thing and you literally just like lose yourself. You're like, I just can't handle this right now. This is not helpful. And the idea is to step by step, to get to a place that you're content and happy, and just like, yeah, this is cool. Okay, I can learn about this now. Because we all want to get to a happy, healthier place, right? And just have fun and just, enjoy ourselves, and not have it have to all mean. I mean, that's the thing too. I think a lot of times we're all looking for meaning. I know personally, I'm always like, what does this mean? And sometimes it doesn't mean anything, and that's okay too. It's like, just roll with it. It's funny how you with the oracle card, it talked about being a river and flowing around the mountain. There has been so much about oceans, rivers coming up for me, of just let the flow come into your life. Just let it flow, because then it's, there's not this resistance, and you can really then kind of open yourself up, and you're a bit more relaxed, and it's not hard work anymore. It's just you maintaining yourself in a quite easy, healthy way. Because that's the point of all this stuff, right? Is to get into your flow and just go with it and be content with it. So I think all this can really, really help someone mature in a very healthy way. So yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
Yes. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to chat to me. And I'm sure we'll have a lot more to chat about later. So you'll be hearing from Emily more. Cool. Well, enjoy the time with your daughter and Jason today. And we'll chat soon.
Sweet.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, please like us, subscribe, and tell your friends. You can follow us on Instagram, The Future Edit. And for more information about my guest and myself, you can head to thefutureedit.com. Until next time, ciao.